With absolute certainty, what defines whether your Pokémon journey will be a success or a failure is the choice of the starters. Perhaps the hardest decision a person can have. I at least came from a generation where every 10-year-old boy had to choose one of these three options as a lifelong favorite. That choice was incredibly significant. But man, have you ever stopped to consider what are the worst starters from each generation? Well, I did, and that's why I decided to bring this video to you. And the criteria that I used to assemble this list is focused only in the story mode, without considering the competitive scene or anything like that. Literally, that Pokémon that if you choose will probably lead you to have a greater difficulty than the other two choices. Thinking about the advantage and disadvantages that each one has in the genes and members of the Elite Four, and of course, this video will spark a lot of discussion in the comments. If you disagree with my opinion, you are free to offend me in the comments, but of course, also create your list so I know what you think. Well, here in this region, we have the three most iconic starters of the Pokémon franchise. And here, we don't really have one that is very bad in fact. The vast majority of the starters are pretty good, but since the video's objective is to choose the worst, we'll have to name one of them. Right away, I thought a lot. I considered choosing Bulbas, but he's a great against all those leaders there. Then, I thought about choosing Squirtle, but this Pokémon here is so good that speedrunners always choose him to do their turns. But with great pain in my heart, I have to choose my all-time favorite Pokémon. Unfortunately, Charmander and its evolutions do not have much advantage in this region. He loses to Brock, he loses to Misty, so your start will be already difficult. Speaking of advantages, he only manages to hit Erika and that's it. Even in the Elite Four, he manages to be useful only against Bruno fighting type Pokémon, and still has to watch out for Machamp's Rock Slide. Charizard's my favorite Pokémon, but we have to admit, compared to the other two, he's the one that has the greater difficulty in the region. Oh man, here I even feel like laughing, and I know you are also already thinking the same as me, because in this region there's no way to choose another Pokémon than Chikorita. My friend, this Pokémon was really not made to be chosen. First, she has a disadvantage against Falkner flying types, against Bugsy bug types, can't do almost anything against Morty, does nothing against Jasmine, gets beaten by Price, doesn't cause any trouble against Claire, does a lot to Will, simply does nothing against Koga, can't face Karen, and does nothing against Lance's 3 Dragonites. And on top of that, throughout the game, you'll have a lot of difficulty against Team Rocket grunts because they practically only have poison type Pokémon. Yes, I think you understood how bad this Pokémon is, right? Oh my god, now we are screwed. How are we going to choose the worst among these three starters? Right away, we already exclude Mudkip. After all, this guy is the king of the region. So the worst starter with many defeats is between these two, and with great pain in my heart, the worst starter here is the Trico. And it's not that he's bad, but I think the other two are a little above him. Blaziken, besides having two types for in fighting, manages to have more advantages against the gym leaders and Elite Four members than Sceptile. If we reach Roxine already with Combustion, he destroys her with double kicks. Against Brawly, he can defeat him with Peck. He performs much better against Watson than the grass starter. Grovyle can't do anything against Flannery. Against the normal type, Norman, he destroys him with Blaziken. Blaziken can still be very good in the Elite Four against Sidney and Glacier. Then, depending on the version, he will still be good against Steven. Sceptile, on the other hand, really only help if you are in Emerald and face Wallace, so he got the title of the region's worst starter. In this region, we immediately exclude Chinchar. This Pokémon is the greatest in the 4th generation games, so the worst starter ended up being between Piplup and Turtwig. And man, adding up the advantages and disadvantages of which one, I decided to choose the Piplup, because he has an advantage against only 3 trainers in the game, and has a disadvantage against 2. The grass starter, on the other hand, has an advantage against 6 trainers, so that's why I choose the Water Penguin as the worst starter. And the worst part is that so far in this video, I have literally chosen my favorite starters from each region as the worst. Here is another region where we have quite a difference in the black and white 1 and 2 game versions. These are the leaders of the first games, and these are the leaders of black and white 2, so it was very difficult to think about which of those two to choose. I say 2 because we already exclude Ambor from the options because he was truly the best among the 3. Now between Snivy and Oshawott, I don't know if I have a prejudice against grass Pokemon, but again, I'm going to choose the representative of that type, simply because he's the one with the most disadvantages in this generation. In Black and White 1 games, he loses to Bergs, Kyle and Bryson. In the Black and White 2 games, he struggles against Roxy and against Berg, while Oshawott only has a disadvantage against Elisa. So I think I choose the right Pokemon to win the title of the worst starter. Okay, here in Kalos, we immediately exclude the fire starter. He has an advantage against many trainers, so once again, we will be between the grass and water representatives. And to be honest, here, be mad at me, because the worst starter of this region will be difficult to choose. Let's talk about their disadvantages first. Right away, Froakie already lost to Ramos, Clement and Valerie. Chespin, on the other hand, loses to Viola, Olympia and Wulfric, and also to Malv in the Elite Four, and he even loses to Seabold, against whom supposedly would have an advantage, because he has a Starmie that once humiliated me on my journey. So 1-0 for Froakie. Starting with Froakie, he destroyed Grant, Olympia, Malva, and with a nice bin you can have fun against Drasna. On the other side, our grass starter only has an advantage against Grant, because even against the Elite Four members of the Steel type, 2 of his Pokemon will not lose to Chestnut's fighting moves. Besides, one thing that bothers me a lot about this Pokemon is speed, which we cannot say the same about Greninja, because besides being very fast, he hits very hard. The Ninja Frog is literally the Pokemon that everyone likes. You who are watching are the type of person who, if the Pokemon doesn't deal damage, you don't even put it in your move pool. So Chestnut, for me, is the worst starter of Kalos. Oh, Alola, one of the most unique regions, with gym leaders replaced by Kahunas and Trials, and man, the choice here is quite difficult. Right away we already can exclude Lighten, not only because he's the fire starter, which always perform well, but Incineroar is fire and dark, which gives him absurd coverage. He destroys Mallow's Trial, Rolas, he's like a bumped up Blaziken for the star mode, so the worst will be between Rowlet and Popailu, and honestly, I love Primarina, and my choice, with a hint and regret, is the Rowlet. Decidueye is beautiful and has a sinister move, but in the star mode, he makes me sweat more than the other two. He's my chosen one as the starters from Alola. But here, I would really like your opinion. Which Pokemon do you consider the worst among them? I genuinely was very in doubt. The region that was inspired by England. Tell me if that's not awesome to battle in these gyms that look like soccer stadiums. Here, none of these 2 starters stand out too much, in fact. I fought a lot and couldn't choose their worst. Besides finding this Pokemon very strong, I like its base stats and I like the way it performs in the story mode. The worst part is that all of them tie in terms of advantage and disadvantage against the gym leaders and Pokemon League members, but the Pokemon that has the fewest advantages ends up being Scorbunny. Okay, I know Cinderace is fast and hits very hard, but he doesn't have an advantage against practically any of the main trainers in the game. He only has a type advantage against the first gen, and that's it, literally no one else. Of course, with a decent move pool, he will help you, but I had to choose someone and decided to choose this rabbit that plays soccer. Here, already has a king, which is the fire alligator, so right away, we excluded him without thinking twice, leaving us with the grass and water starters once again. You can see that, up until now, usually the first starters are among the strongest, at least on my list. Maybe I might be being biased, who knows. Our water duckling only has an advantage against Rika in the Elite Four, and for disadvantage he suffers against grass type and against electric type Yono. His base stats are focused on speed and special attack, all the rest are quite garbage. He's that Pokemon that hit hard but dies on the first hit it receives. Now, Meowscarada has 2 types in its final form, which gives an advantage against water type, ghost type Rhyme, psych type Tulip, and ground type Rika. That is much more useful than Dentilian. Besides, she is very fast and hits hard too. So without a doubt, the worst starter of this generation is the water Pokemon. And this was our list for today's video. Don't forget to leave yours in the comment, so I know if I'm very stupid or I'm average among people. Thank you very much for watching until the end, and please watch this video that is appearing on the screen because it is simply the best video on the channel.